Yo, if you have seen my channel for the past couple of months, you would have noticed something a little different. And that something is different is that I have switched to AWs. The main reason why I switched to AWs is school, but I am a lifelong FL Studio user. I started on FL Studio 3 back in 2013. I was in grade 7, I was 13. And yeah, then my life changed after that. But I have been using FL Studio for a long while. On today's video, I'm going to show you how to switch from FL Studio to Ableton. This video is for people who are efficient in FL Studio but want to move to Ableton. So the assumption is you know how to use FL Studio and know how to make music. So when you open Ableton for the first time, this is kind of what you'll see. It will be a little bit different, but this is pretty much what you'll see. And it might be daunting at first because people say it looks like a pilot's cockpit, but I think it's easy. So this section is called the clip section. I've used this once and that was for a performance. And that was before I got into Ableton, but it's really good for queuing songs and effects and stuff like that for performances. So this is, for live music. You can make music on this, but it's pretty much tailored for live, as you know, Ableton Live. But you have to press the button tab, and then it will take you to this section, which is it's a philosophy switch. So you have to shift your mind from patterns to clips and how clips are extended and stuff like that. What you have on Ableton, you have MIDI tracks and then you have audio tracks, and they work differently here in terms of what input they can take in. In FL Studio, your tracks are not necessarily linked to what content is on the track. Like I can move this bass, which is MIDI, to this section and it will still play. Oof, my CPU. Donate to the channel for me to get a new laptop. Anyways, you see it still plays, so it's not actually linked to the channel itself, which is a different. In Ableton, what the content of the track is linked to whatever is in the tracks. When you open Ableton, this is what you find, and so your browser is on this side. So this is where your plugins, your samples, and everything is. So this is a very important section. And let's say you want your plugins. What I found about Ableton is that it's easier to search what you're looking for instead of like going in. So to add this launch lizard to this track, I can, if this track is selected, I can just double click on this one and then it will automatically go to this track like that. Or I can drag and drop it here on the track or on this bar. And this bar is important because this is where you add your effects. This is where you add your effects. So if I have this now MIDI and then I want to add effects to this MIDI, the effects will go here. And then for audios, let's find an audio clip. Yeah, to add this loop here, I just drag and drop it here. And what you'll find is that Ableton is really good with loops. When I say really good, I mean really good. So if you've dragged the loop to here, it's already in time, as you can see. I do not know why FL doesn't do this. It's probably like that on FL 25, but when you drag a loop on FL, you have to stretch it or, get the timing of it, which is quite frustrating, but it is what it is. So if I drag this loop just to the playlist, it is not in time. And it's not linked to anything in terms of the mixer. It's going directly to the master. So if you look here, it's going directly to the master. What you also have is this little thing here in Ableton, which will help you a lot in stuff, and that is your warp markers. That means you can change the timing of this. So if little things are not in time, you can easily change that. So the thing about clips is that if you look at here, this purple little thing, it's a loop bar. That means this clip will loop around this section. So I can change my loop section to, let's say, here. Now so it's looping there. So if I try to extend it, crop sample to time selection, and then now my sample will just loop that little part. It's not in time, but that's how samples work here. So the equivalent in FL Studio is not there. Let's say I have this loop. Let me get it in time because it's not. If I want to make this loop 2 times longer, you just shift drag, and then now it's 2 times longer. So if I drag this here, these are 2 different clips. If I make changes to this clip won't change, which is different from FL Studio because these are the same clip basically. So if I change the timing on this one will change as well. So to make this 2 times longer, you just drag it, and that works the same way for MIDI clips. So MIDI clips are the same way. Let's just find some MIDI. So if I want to extend this MIDI, I'll just do this. So if I shift and drag or copy and paste, it's going to be 2 different clips, and changing this clip is different from changing this clip. That is the philosophy change that you have to make in your mind, because these are 2 different clips. But if you just extend it like this, it's the same clip. So if I change this one section here, let's say I add like this little thing here, it's also there on this side. As you can see, it changed for both. So if you want to add MIDI clips, you just control shift T, and then we'll add a MIDI clip. Control T will add an audio clip, and you can do these as many as you want or as you need. So that's how this works. And something I haven't seen FL Studio have is MIDI effects. So you add MIDI effects as you would add your regular effects, but they affect the playing of the MIDI. So they come before your plugin. So this is a MIDI monitor. If you've seen someone use Ableton, you've probably seen this. Basically tells you the chords, and you can have the velocity, and you just change the incoming velocity of your MIDI before it gets to your plugin. Or you can have something like note echo, which basically repeats your notes. Let's say 4. So you can have those. These come before your MIDI, and then effects after, let's say, a saturator, after your plugin affect the sound that the plugin made. I want to show you guys something that annoyed the heck out of me when I started using Ableton. So we're gonna let this play out. It stopped playing. I was so annoyed by that, because why would you stop playing? Because there's nothing else after this. In FL Studio, what you have, if it's at the end and then it finishes playing, it's just gonna automatically restart. That's not the case in Ableton, which kind of got annoying. But what you use is your loop, your overall loop for your song. So basically press Control L, and you've probably noticed this now. You To use Ableton, you need to know most of the shortcuts because it's just easier that way. And then now it's gonna loop. So if it's here, and now to the part that people hate the most about Ableton, the playlist. I think the hate the playlist gets is kind of unwarranted, but like I do get it. I do get it. Coming from a DAW with a really good piano roll to this is kind of jarring, but it's not that bad. So first of all, to add notes, you just double click and then it will add your note. What I've found is that in FL Studio, the length of your note and its velocity is based on your last note. So if, let me select this note, and then if I add another note, it's gonna be the same. And in FL Studio, you click once, so it's the same length and velocity. So if I select this note and then I try to, or this note, and then now in Ableton, it's always the default, whatever grade you got going on, and then it's just gonna do that length and that velocity. I haven't found a way to do it like FL, but it's not that much of a trouble. Or you can just control drag and note, which makes it simpler. And in FL Studio, you have the scale highlighting. I know people, we all use scale highlighting, especially for us who are still learning music theory, and it's not as intuitive. In Ableton, you have two scale. So this one is your global scale. So if I change this one, it's gonna be for everything. Oh yeah, it's in A sharp. Okay. So this is in A sharp. If I change it here, it highlights your notes. To highlight the notes, you click here, basically. And then what you can do is you can fold. You can just have the scale. If you have click scale, that means all the notes that are here are in your scale. So there's no other notes that are not in scale, which can be useful. Or you can fold. When you fold, it will only show you the notes that you've used. So let's fold. And then what sells the piano roll from Ableton for me is this section over here. This section over here has a lot of things. So if I want to humanize, so let me solo this. Let's remove the no echo, and I don't need this. Let's say I want to, there's different things you can do. So in this section especially, so okay, let's start here. If you want to humanize, you can set the percent you want to humanize, and then let's say humanize, and then it changes it. You can really go. Or you can, have it a little bit. And then this section, you can change a lot of things. This is basically like the alt in FL Studio. So let's go back to this thing. And then Alt A will be your arpeggiator. Oh, I pressed Alt S. Alt A will be your arpeggiator. Alt L so strum. Alt R will randomize. Alt X is the velocity. I think Alt O is LFO for your velocity. Basically, we have those tools to change the playing of your MIDI. So in Ableton, okay, let's get back to Ableton. You have this section. So you can have your arpeggiator. Send this off. Or you can chop. I think this is Alt U on FL Studio. Or Alt I. I forgot now. But you can chop up your chords to however many parts you want. Or you can have glissando, the LFO, you can have quantized drum, velocity shaper. So it's basically the same thing as an FL, and you can randomize from here. See, now this is where the velocity will be useful. Now to making drums. Usually people do drums differently. I do drums over here. That's why a lot of people have been telling me to use Ableton because of how I do my drums. I still do my drums the same way in FL as I would in Ableton, but I think this will be different for a lot of people. Because people don't do their drums over here. People use the channel rack or the drum sequencer. I don't like it because of how I do things. Because none of my things are on grid. What you have in FL, if you are using this section, is that this is automatically quantized. You have to go to your piano roll to actually customize it. And then my problem with that is that now you're here. Let's say you wanna move this in reference to the snare. You cannot see your snare. That's my problem with doing drums in the piano roll / drum sequencer. Like if I'm here and I want to move this kick or this head in reference to this kick, I can see what I'm doing. Here you have to use ghost notes. That means you have to do your drums on the same thing. Ooh, I forgot to talk about ghost notes. Let's go back to the piano roll and talk about ghost notes before we go back to the drums. Anyways, to have ghost notes in Ableton, control click on both of your MIDI clips and then shift tab, control shift, and then this will take you to this section. And now you have both your MIDI clips here, and then you have to say focus, and then we'll focus on one, and then you can choose. Let's say you have a bass, you want to make a bass in reference to your chords, so now you can see which one you want to focus on. People have their own tricks on how they navigate the timing thing here, doing the playlist or whatever. In Ableton, to do your drums, you can do what I do, which won't be different. So if you're doing drums like how I do drums on here, then nothing is different. You just add all your clips and then you just add your drums like that, drum rack, and then you add it as a MIDI. You can edit, either drop it here. You can drop it on the audio clip because that's an audio track. So drop it here, and then you can add your drums. And then to add a MIDI, you have to know. Let's say I want a MIDI of this length. You just select that length and then Control Shift M, and then now you have this. So as you add drums to this, let me just add one with drums so you can see how it would look when you have added your drums. Let's say combine kit, add it here. So you can add your drums here, and then it will show up like this on your playlist. Let me solo it because there's no sound. And that is how you do drums. This is basically like how you would in FL if you're a type of user. Control B, and not Control B, just B. That's basically the same as it would be in FL Studio. Ableton has a different approach to the mixer. So what you have is that your mixer is modular. So you have your mixer kind of all over the place, which makes things simpler. I know that sounds crazy to say, but you do have a mixer. For people who want to say, oh yeah, Ableton has a mixer, this is your mixer. It's right on this corner right here. You can work it as you would any other mixer, but I never use a section because I don't need to, because the mixer is here in this section. So let's say this section I add audio effects. Let's see, I want a crazy one. Let's say a resonator, and just add it here. You see, this is where you add your effects, right? In FL Studio, this is where that would be. So you add your effects here. So you want to change the volume or your gain. This is where you do that. If you look here, that's the same thing as this. Another thing to note, this is in dBs, not in percentages. The scale in FL Studio is in percentages, so it goes from 0 to 100%, and then it just shows you the dBs on the side. You see, this scale is 0%, not 0 dB here. This is negative infinity dB. So that's something to take note, because this will not move like how you think it would move on FL. Because it's logarithmic instead of percentages, which is linear. So this is where your mixer is. Basically, you don't need this section. You can pan over here, and then you can do your sends. So the sends in FL Studio are here. FL Studio basically took the approach of a real mixer. So this is where your send is, and then you would increase it here, and then this will send delay, or this will send reverb to whatever plugin. And then here, how you do that is, this is my send passes. So these are my 2 send tracks, and then if I increase this one, it will add reverb, and then this one will add delay. Link this, and then you can add your own sends. When you say insert return track, and then now it's here as well. So you can control your volume over here, you can control sends over here, you can control panning over here, and then you can add effects over here. So essentially you don't need a mixer track like this. Anyways, you can group. So let's say I have these two MIDI. Let me move it here. So, and I want these two instruments to come out of the same track. Just select both of them and then Control G, and then it's gonna group them, and then your output is gonna be on this one. So your output going to the main is on this one, and then the output of this one is going to group. That's how that one is done. So same. The last thing is automation. So to get automation, you have to my keyboard is on, so let me go here and then monitor. So you have to turn that off and then press A. Now you have your automation, and you have different things you can control. If the thing you want to control, let's come here. Let's say the thing you want to control is over here, and you want to control the depth of your tremolo. You just move it, and then now it's here. So anything you want to control, you just move it, and then it's gonna show up here. And then you can click on this thing, and then you can record it or do what you want. And that is automation. And automation is pretty simple in Ableton. Let me remove B, and then you can control it like that. It is pretty simple. Anything can be automated. You can also your actual interface. So you press Control M, and then now all these things that are turned blue can be connected to MIDI, like the buttons. So this is great when you are performing, and I use this a lot on the performance because I could control things from my MIDI controller while the artist was performing. And that is it for the video. I hope I can get a few people to see the lights and come to Ableton, because it's very lonely out here. And I hope you guys enjoy this video. If you have any questions, drop them down below. If you want to support the channel, you can become a member, or you can buy me coffee. Whichever one works. I think becoming a member is pretty cool because you get the videos first, and you know, there's some perks from that.